Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to another segment of I'm Just Saying with Dr. B. And like I said before, I always have so much to talk about. And yesterday was just unbelievable to me. So, quick backstory, I was on the phone with one of my friends last night, and he said, Had you heard about the latest comment from our new education secretary? And I was like, No, I hadn't. So, when I started doing a little research, I was like, You have got to be kidding me. So, for those who've been living under a rock and who may not know, our new education secretary under this administration is Linda McMahon, who was the she was the owner of she was the wife of the owner of the wrestling federation or something like that. And so oddly enough, you would say, okay, why would this lady be the education secretary? She has never done anything in the realm of education, but she has run several businesses. And so we know that under our current administration, one of the things is putting people who are in business or who have been in business in certain seats. And so that's, if you have the experience, you have the experience. But one of the things that we did when the administration started was kind of get rid of DEI everywhere we could. Remember, we went through that whole thing with our retail stores. We started seeing the retail stores pull DEI programming back. Any place in government, it was rolled back. It was just like stamp out DEI. We don't want to see it. We don't want to hear it. We don't know. We just don't want anything to do with that. And you know what? As I'm sitting here, I'm looking, the wrong little bug is going across the bottom of the screen. We're supposed to be talking about the School of Hard Knocks, Linda McMahon, and the education ignorance. And now I'm not saying that she is ignorant by no means, right? But we do know that the word of ignorance means lack of knowledge. So one of the things that we have seen is that Linda, unfortunately, does not have a strong knowledge base when it comes to education and what is happening with education in our country. So when she first started, there was this whole slip up where she was being interviewed and she mentioned an acronym. And, I can't fully fault her because I will say that our government has a slew of acronyms. When you talk about alphabet soup, I know a lot of people make the joke of, the LGBT community has a lot of alphabets. And, we laugh at that all the time. But when you look at the federal government, we have so many acronyms that are similar. When Linda was asked about one of the acronyms, she was like, well, yeah, I really can't tell you what that means. And so now for someone who has just been confirmed as the education secretary, I mean, I think if you're going to talk about a program, you should know what it means, or if you're going to mention the acronym, that you should know what the acronym means. So real quick, I'm going to go to the video of that, and so you can actually see what I'm talking about. And so, like the interviewer, she said, "I've been here 20 years. I don't even know what it means." I just felt like if you're going to mention something in an interview, you got to know what you're talking about, right? I mean, would you go on a job interview and say, I was, let's just use DEI. I was the DEI coordinator for my job. And they say, "Oh, by the way, what does DEI stand for?" And you're like, I don't know. If you're going to reference something, you have to at least know what you're talking about. I mean, that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that's my feeling, that you got to know what you're talking about. But then yesterday, it's like it comes back again. So wait, before I go into yesterday, so let me just say, if it were me, I would have been a little embarrassed by the situation. And I'm not saying that she has to be, but I'm just saying, if it were me being me, I would have been a little embarrassed by the situation. And I would have said, "You know what? When I go on interviews and I talk about certain things, I am going to make sure that I know exactly what I'm talking about," right? And when you do some interviews, a lot of times you can ask, what are the questions, what are the topics that we're going to talk about, so that way you can fully prepare yourself. But to me, it's almost just like, I don't know if you can say it's an entitlement thing or what it is, but for you just to get up and do an interview and not know what you're talking about is a little crazy to me. So what I want to do is I want to go to another video so that you can see what happened yesterday. And so we almost had a repeat of the same thing yesterday, where here she is talking about something. And to me, it was like unbelievable, because it is a two-letter acronym, not even difficult. Two letters. It's one of the things that we talk about so often right now. It's like it's on the butt of our, not the butt, it's at the head of our technology right now. Everybody is talking about it. So the fact that you could not remember what these two letters are is a little odd to me. And you are the person who's supposed to be in charge of education for our nation. So, what confidence do I have then in the person who is supposed to lead me when it comes to education, who knows or who's making these types of mistakes? So, let me go to the second video and, pull this up so you can kind of see what's happening here. And actually, this, you know what? I knew this was going to happen. This is not the video that I wanted. Let me see if I can put it over here. Did I? So let me try it this way, because I see. I told you I was working with this new system here, and I'm trying to figure out how everything works. And it was working for me a few minutes ago, but let me see. I'm going to do it like this, because I was really in kind of disbelief that this was taking place. Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to back it up a few screens so that you guys can see exactly what we are talking about. And I actually saw this on the Rachel Maddow show yesterday. So I got to back it up so that you can see exactly what we're talking about. And here we go. Now, did you catch it? A1. And so I am sitting here listening to this, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. A1 teaching. And so at first I was like, okay, we do want A1 teaching. But then as I thought about it, I'm like, that's not what she was talking about. So then as she continues on to talk about it, she says it again. And so I know that when I speak, and oftentimes if I'm speaking in front of a crowd, my mind is going because I'm trying to continue to think of what I want to get across to people while speaking, right? So your mind is racing, and sometimes you can have that Freudian slip where you say something that is not exactly what you mean. It may be close to what you mean, what have you. But then oftentimes you catch it the second time. And so that's where people say, oh, yes, you said this and then you said this. She said it again. So it wasn't as though it were, to me, like an error or a slip of the tongue. It was what she actually thought. She actually thought that AI was A1. And so the problem that I have here is, again, this is the person that we are putting in charge of our education, but we also know that this is the person who the administration put in place to shut down the Department of Education, which we thought was kind of odd because if you plan on shutting something down, why appoint a secretary? But then you tell her that, listen, I want you to put yourself out of a job because your job is to close down the agency that you're going to run, right? Now, she has admitted and said, I understand that I cannot do this alone. This is not a singular decision. I have to go through Congress to do this. Now, what she was able to do was to reduce the workforce. So they riffed a whole bunch of employees, about 50% of their staff or so, and which is, RIF is reduction in force. So they've gotten rid of a lot of their employees. So that brings down the scope of the agency, right? But your job is to ultimately close it, but you're going to need to go through Congress in order to do so. And my hope is that Congress does not do that. There is a reason why the federal government has a say so in education. It is to make sure that education is somewhat equal across the board. If the monies go back into the state hands for the states to distribute the funding the way they choose, it will allow a state to say, I live in Washington, D.C., so let's just say it will allow a state to say, possibly, we can allocate these monies to the schools in, let's just say, Northwest DC, opposed to Southeast DC, where the demographic is changing. Now, the interesting thing about Washington, D.C., it is becoming a melting pot again of a lot of different ethnicities. But we know that in the Southeast quadrant, in a lot of cities, it is where the African American population is. So if we allow a state that believes, well, we want to give this money to only the people who live in this area because these are where the people can afford to live. They can pay these high prices, so they're in a different salary bracket, so they are a different demographic of person. We want to give the money here opposed to the people who live over here. and where the poverty level is a little higher, but we want to focus the money over here where people already have a little bit of money. That does not allow for balance of education across the board. And so what the purpose is, if we give money in a way that is kind of equal, or like we say equitable across the state, then that gives everybody the opportunity to become a productive citizen, because they have the opportunity to learn and to get a great education, opposed to saying, well, just because your parents don't make a lot, you have to go to this school. We're not giving money to this school. We're not going to allow this school to have the funding needed to create programs for you to become a productive citizen. We're not going to give the school money so that they can buy new textbooks every 2 to 3 years or what have you. So you guys are stuck with the old rundown, beat down, lack of robust programming, while we focus and we give money over here. It allows for that type of inequitable distribution of funding. It has been said that the federal government gives approximately only 10% of a budget to the states for them to do this. And that's just to help offset that funding that the states have to distribute to the schools, so that schools that are in high poverty areas will have the opportunity to thrive as well, or will have the opportunity to have programming to help their students thrive and become well-educated people. That is the purpose. And so the worry is that if our Department of Education closes down, it's not only going to affect our lending, because a lot of people get not scholarships, scholarships, grants, or federal grants in order to go to school. They get student loans to go to school. If the Department of Education is closed, that only leaves private companies to provide that type of assistance. And through private companies, they will have the option of saying who they may want to give their money to. So it no longer becomes an equitable distribution or an equitable opportunity for everybody to learn and to get a quality education. But then it rolls us back several years to the time where only certain people had the opportunity to be well educated while others did not. And that creates the division within our country. That creates the problem where not everybody has the opportunity to live a great life because they are well educated to be able to get great jobs and be great contributors to our country as a whole. So it is just ironic and interesting to me, and then maybe it shouldn't be, that the person who is in charge of education as a whole across our nation is not well educated when it comes to her subject matter. She is very far from an SME in that realm. An SME is subject matter expert, since we were talking about acronyms. So that's all that I wanted to say about that. I just thought it was really interesting that this is coming down the pike and that we're starting to see these things. I would just say, stay tuned. If you just watch the news, I wouldn't say become overly engrossed in it, but just watch little things that are happening. We're starting to see an unfolding of a lot of things. We're starting to see things become more and more clearer. Like, I'll just say, I'm not even going to go into that because that may be a story that may be coming up maybe later today or tomorrow. But I'll just say, stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled, your ears open for a lot of things that are unfolding, and we'll see what happens when it comes to our Department of Education under Linda McMahon. Thanks so much for joining. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.